Good morning. My name is Marisol Acosta. I'm the Director of Clinical Services at Any Baby Can. We're glad that you join us today. This presentation is hosted and sponsored by Any Baby Can and the No Estás Solo Counseling Program. I am the Director of Clinical Services at Any Baby Can. I am a licensed professional counselor supervisor, and we will be discussing today coping with the impact of COVID-19. This is going to be an introduction for adults and parents, and I'm going to give a few instructions in starting this presentation. Everybody's going to be mute during the presentation, and at the end of the presentation, we will have a section for questions and answers. And if you have questions during the presentation, please write them on the chat. I have two Any Baby Can staff of my teams helping in tracking what are the questions that people are asking so that we can discuss those at the end of the presentation. Again, we're very grateful that you have joined us today. This presentation will be recorded and posted in the future. And more information will be, come and where are we going to post it. Probably it's going to be on Any Baby Can website or another public place. We will also have this same presentation in Spanish at 3 o'clock Central Time today. So Any Baby Can's vision is to have a community that empowers parents, prioritizes healthy families, and invests in child development. And our mission is actually to partner with families to build stability, develop skills, and unlock each child's full potential. So in the midst of this coronavirus emergency, we wanted to provide a series of presentations in alignment with our mission to actually provide you some skills to parents and adults so that you can help support your families and try to actually create stability and a sense of safety during this emergency. In the objectives, I'm going to first start this with updating you with the efforts that Any Baby Can is doing regarding to COVID-19. And then I'm going to introduce you to a series of support and resource series that we're creating, focusing on coping with the coronavirus. The last part is going to be divided in two, which I will provide a brief presentation on helping you understand and how to cope with the emotional impact of COVID-19 and how to support children in your family during this emergency. So what is Any Baby Can doing to support families and clients regarding COVID-19? So our top priority right now in Any Baby Can is to ensure the safety of our clients and the safety of our employees. And if you have been following the news closely, if you see on the right side of the screen, you know, we put, this is the entire service area of Any Baby Can, includes 10 counties. And we have, all counties have been impacted right now with the coronavirus. And so we're trying to ensure that we prioritize the safety of our clients and the safety of our employees as we continue providing services. So we have been closely adhering and following the guidelines of our local public health authorities. In particularly, our priority has been to follow Austin Public Health guidance and recommendations for our area. In addition to that, we're following the Texas Department of State Health Services guidelines, the Health and Human Services Commission guidelines, and the Center for Prevention and Control of Diseases, the CDC, nationwide. And we're trying to also keep an alignment, knowing that we have such a vast region of services that there may be some differences in each county that we serve. So we're trying to also align with the local recommendations. Right now, Any Baby Can, you probably have heard that we have moved to do all our services remotely. So we have been moving to providing services over the phone, via video conferencing, by providing televisits or telehealth services. In addition to that, we have been updating our website and our social media pages like Facebook and Instagram, providing information about the changes on our operations. So even though our building right now doesn't have staff that can actually provide services to you, we have people that are actually checking our incoming emails, checking voicemail messages, answering the phones at a distance to help support the common requests of services, because all programs are actually still in operations, but we're doing it remotely, which I will talk in a moment. In addition to that, we're trying to create, this situation has created changes for all of us, for you, for us as employees, for our families. And we're trying to create innovations and try to problem solve. How can we actually continue serving you and supporting the clients, our families, and our community? So we still are committed to continue listening to your needs, responding to your needs. So please make sure that you communicate with your Any Baby Can program liaison, whether it's your therapist, your parent educator, your case manager. Talk to that person and share with them what is it that you're needing during this time. As I said, all our programs continue operations. So that includes the Nurse Family Partnership, Early Childhood Intervention Services, Healthy and First Step programs, our family education programs, our Care and Candlelighter program for case management, our chat program for children with hearing needs, our Tandem program that provides parents as teachers services, our Nuestra Solo counseling program, and we're still trying to find how can we continue providing basic needs supports during this emergency, which are changing a little bit, but our team, which is the Family Support Services, is still working in trying solutions to how can we connect you with the needs that you're having during this time. So how are we providing services? Most of you, if you got the link for this presentation, it means that you're connected to an Any Baby Can service and you continue receiving support from us. So we continue providing support to all our clients, but temporarily, we have suspended all face-to-face services and home visits. And so even though we're doing that, we're still keeping our communication open via phone, via email, via texting, and via video conferencing through the internet. We're also trying to promote and prioritize maintaining social distancing and following those important public health guidelines to help lower the curve of the coronavirus. But we will continue providing services using technology. So I hope that you are taking the chance with our staff is also learning how to do services for the first time in this way. So yes, we will have services for you over the phone, but we're trying and encourage you to actually do that televisit, do that telehealth service. Try to use, even if you feel a little bit of uncomfortable, give it a try to have that video connection with your Any Baby Can program liaison or your caseworker. For some services, like certain type of therapies and some programs, it is actually crucial that we have a face-to-face service because there's no other way that our healthcare providers can serve you. And for those who actually don't have technology, we're still trying to actually keep a connection through mail and letting you know what are the changes that are happening in our organization. Now, there's things that Any Baby Can staff cannot do during this emergency. And the reason for that is that we're really trying to ensure the safety of our families and our clients and the safety of our employees. So Any Baby Can staff can provide home-based services right now. Any Baby Can staff can also not deliver goods to your home. We know that some of our staff in the past have helped you deliver maybe food or diapers or other basic need resources because of the guidelines that we have of keep social distancing. We are unable to do that, and we're trying to ensure that our staff is also protected, and there's a scarcity of protective gear, so we're trying to ensure that we find other ways to connect you to still help you have access to the needs that you have. But they won't be able to deliver any goods at this time. And staff cannot ensure that you'll have access to a testing or medical care during this time. We can help you provide information about where to, where you can seek help for medical services during this time, but we have no power in ensuring that you'll get testing or that you'll have medical treatment. In addition, although we have multiple type of healthcare professionals, we can give you medical advice on how to treat coronavirus during this time. So if you have any symptoms, it is important to consult your doctor, which I will discuss later in this presentation. Now, there's a lot of things that our staff can still do. They can still provide us the services that we do, that you have been receiving. And so they can, they will do so over the phone, or they will do that over the video conferencing, as I said, through telehealth or televisit, which is the technical name of having that contact. So you may be using Zoom, you may be using FaceTime in some cases, you may be using your phone or your computer. We're really trying to still keep that person-to-person contact with you. And so we will be continue providing support. We'll be providing a lot of information to you about resources, about where can you get the latest information about this emergency, or any resources that you have. We're committed to still continue doing that and try to problem solve how to address the needs that you may have right now, even though we won't be able to see you in person. So we will continue connecting you with community resources, which I will have a list of resources also at the end of this presentation for you. Now, you probably are wondering, so when is Any Baby Can planning to resume normal operations? When can I see my case managers? When can I see my early childhood, my ECI development person? When can I see the therapist? So right now, as I said, we're following public health recommendations and national guidelines, and we don't have a specific date. We're trying to be in alignment with the county and the local region is saying. Yet, we will not, we will only resume our normal operations when it's safe to actually provide home-based services. So it has to be safe for you, it has to be safe for your children, and it has to be safe for our employees. So until we can ensure that, we will continue providing remote services, and we hope that soon there will be solutions that our public health experts find so that we can continue providing services face-to-face. But for right now, our priority is to continue providing remote services. Now, you can actually check our website and our social media pages and Facebook to check what are the updates that Any Baby Can has on when are we planning to resume operations. We're giving frequent updates on our website and on social media. And so just please keep checking in and check with your Any Baby Can caseworker too. Now, I'm gonna go into introduce you to a series of support and resources series that we're gonna be launching during this coronavirus emergency. So our counseling program in No Estás Solo and a lot of the case managers and staff in Any Baby Can have been concerned in the impact that this is having on you and your families. So we're going to be creating, thus far you may have already actually received some emails or that has handouts or text messages of links of information about the coronavirus or how to cope. So we're going to continue creating some of those that are going to be very specific to audiences and the different programs that we serve. We're also going to do online presentations like this one. So this is the first time that we're launching this type of presentation. So we're hoping that we will continue doing this type of webinar. There will be others that are going to be probably shorter, that are going to be more focused on specific topics that people have been asking about. So today is more like an introduction in general, and we hope to host other presentations that are going to be announced in the future that other staff of Any Baby Can or myself will be the ones hosting or providing the presentation to you. In addition to that, our mental health therapists and our counselors will be creating a series of online support groups. Now, we're restarting, if you didn't know, Any Baby Can has actually existing support groups, in particular in the area of maternal mental health. And this week, we're actually restarting that services online for the first time for existing clients. And we hope that by the last week of April, we will be launching other type of actually support groups on maternal mental health in English and Spanish. We'll also be launching some support groups for more emotional support in how to cope. Some will be targeting adults, so maybe targeting youth. And then we will have another support group that will be targeting parents of children with special healthcare needs. We have multiple programs in Any Baby Can that serve children with special healthcare needs, where there is the Early Childhood Intervention Program or CARE or Candlelighters for children with cancer or CHAT or many others that we have. We know that some of you have children with special healthcare needs. And so the needs that you may have are gonna be unique, and we wanna make sure that we provide a support just for you. So please stay in touch. check our website, ask your case manager or your caseworker from any baby can about these resources. When are they coming in the future? So I'm moving to a little bit quickly to the content of my presentation today, which the first part is going to be about understanding the impact of COVID-19. So the first thing that we have to do, and I'm going to do a quick review. As I said, I'm a licensed professional counselor, clinical supervisor. My expertise is actually in trauma, in mental health, and I'm a national expert in emergency responses and disaster for children and families, and which is the reason why I'm the one that I'm doing the launch of this meeting and presentation today. But I'm not a medical personnel, so I'm taking all the information from the CDC to give you just a brief on what is the reality that I know all of you know, but it is important to review it in order to understand what is the impact that that is having on us. So the COVID-19 is the short name for the coronavirus disease 2019, which is a new virus, which doctors and scientists are still trying to learn about. The most common frequency of the symptoms that people are experiencing are fever, cough, and shortness of breath. Shortness of breath being the most critical sign that if you actually experience severe shortness of breath, you actually need to contact your doctor if you actually are also experiencing the other symptoms as well. Now, there are actually many other symptoms that I'm not going to go over, and they range from mild to actually very severe depending on the medical history of the person. That could be the medical history of a child, of a youth, of a teen, of a parent, or a grandparent. And so some patients on the extreme side, they actually may get pneumonia in both lungs. They may experience multi-organ failure, and in some cases, death. And so that's why public health authorities are actually creating this social distancing and prioritizing this to protect you and your family so that you don't get sick from this highly risk and with the potential to be lethal virus. So you're already living this, this has created a lot of life stressors for you. Same as me, like I'm not used to do work from home in this way. So this creates a lot of stresses in your life in many ways that maybe you have never dealt with. So there's a lot of life changes that you're dealing with, that your child is dealing with, that if you have a partner, your partner or spouse is dealing with, or family members at a distance or close to you, everybody, the entire nation, in fact, the entire world. And that reality is that right now, in order for us to be safe, we have to actually limit our social contact. And the impact of this emergency, which is, it happens in pandemics, it happens in natural disasters, it happens in other man-made disasters, is that it usually creates limited resources, which is what we're experiencing now on the medical side and on certain type of supplies. And so we're all going, this is unique in this pandemic and in this type of emergency, that it creates a lot of isolation. So it is very common and normal right now that you may be feeling alone, that you're feeling isolated, that maybe you're questioning, is it just myself, the one that is going through this or having these questions or thoughts? I will say this is very common, that all of us are actually experiencing this. Because we don't know, the scientists are still trying to figure it out. The doctors are doing their best of trying to figure out this virus. There's a lot of uncertainty. There's a lot of lack of control. We don't have control over our schedules anymore. We don't have completely control of our lives, but we still have control of some things. We don't have control of the pace of this virus, but we may actually have control of things that we can do at home to cope with this, and things that we can do at home to help support our families. So staying at home is the reality that we're all in, and that I think I heard in the news that I think it's just like 3 or 4 nations or islands in the Pacific are the only ones that have yet to be impacted by the coronavirus, but pretty much all countries around the world have been impacted by it. So this creates a stress and anxiety that is very much real, and that if we experience this for a long time and if we don't learn how to manage it, it actually can become toxic and detrimental. So finding a way of how to cope with it is critical. At the same time, having stress and high anxiety is normal. We're dealing with something that could make us sick, that could actually kill us, or can make somebody sick in our family. So this causes changes in behavior in all peoples of all ages. So if there's people in your family that are right now behaving differently, this is a normal reaction when we're going through emergency and dangerous situations. The experience of isolation, as I mentioned, we're really dealing with illness. We're really dealing with people getting sick. So that is stressful in itself. And it is very unique that if we have a family member or know somebody that actually got the virus, there's a whole different way of how to handle and care for that person that you have to learn. So that can be stressful too. At the same time, all of us are experiencing loss. We're experiencing loss. Some people experience real loss of employment, or for business owners, they're experiencing a loss of their businesses. We're experiencing loss of our routine, the loss of the support of the social connection of our friends and families. Maybe some of you may have had plans that we're doing. We just passed spring break, and people had vacation plan, and they had to actually cancel it. We have graduations coming up in May, and a lot of people wonder what's going to happen with those graduations. So not having those key things are actually lost for folks. And so also there's the loss of the resources and the income that is pretty much real, and it's in the millions of people in our nation right now. And then of course there's the loss of life. There's people who are dying, and then so loss and grief is part of this experience. In addition to this, some people, when you are undergoing through this type of anxiety and stress, some people are more at risk of becoming more angry and violent. So for some population, this increases actually the risk of abuse and neglect. There's also a possible risk of interpersonal violence or domestic violence at home. So it is important that everybody in the family learns how to cope and manage their different feelings and that they're gonna have that are just common right now. And so these reactions that people have during emergencies are a result of, because we're in danger, our body has a natural way of helping us survive. And so our body, our brain actually perceives real life-threatening harm or death, which is what's happening right now with the coronavirus. When that happens, our body, our brain triggers an alarm system. And that alarm system is a common response to danger, and we all need it. If you think about in the times of cavemen needed, if there was a lion coming or a bear coming, that they will run and escape in order to survive. So we need that alarm system to protect us from danger. And so even though right now the solution is not to run away, we're still going to have these three common responses. So some people are going to have more a tendency of fighting the danger, and getting more irritable. For some people, it's going to be escaping, the flight. They're trying to escape, they're trying to get away. For other people, the common reaction is going to be freezing, being kind of like stuck and not move or numb. And none of these reactions are better than the other one. We just have to understand that if you see somebody reacting in this way, is the impact of the stress. So we need to figure out, okay, let's try to calm down, or finding ways of channeling that level of stress. So in adults, adults experience very common reactions during this type of stress. Yet different people will have different reactions. So we're not equal, we're not the same. You can even have twins and they're gonna react differently, and that is okay, while other people react actually in pretty similar ways. But adults and children tend to have some differences, and I'm going to go over that so that you understand what is happening to your family members, to your children, to your spouse, to your friend, or your roommate. So as I said, a lot of people will get actually anxious and nervous, and will experience fear. And the fear that we're having right now, it's real. It's a real threat. So it is normal that we experience these things. It's going to be very overwhelming sometimes, the feelings of that we don't have control. That reaction that we have, that feeling that we have, it is a common, as I mentioned, isolation. Some people will actually struggle with calming down, and they're going to be feeling on the edge, and they just cannot calm down. And that is a common response that some people have. There's other people that will have this constant worrying about the unknown, the constant worry about what will happen, the constant worry about being in danger. and they can sort of cannot figure out how to get it. It just comes back to them constantly. Now, because there's so many changes that are happening, if you're following the TV or the social media on these, the life changes are happening. I mean, there's changes and instructions that are happening, every day. There's new instructions about something. So the overload of information creates a lot of confusion and feelings of being overwhelmed, which it's a common response, a normal response to this. Now, what we need to start watching is, okay, so we respond in this way. What are signals that we need to watch on ourselves and start to be mindful, becoming aware of ourselves? What is the impact that this social distancing is having on us? And so there's some behaviors that are a little bit concerning that may be signals that your level of stress is actually on the higher level. So some people are going to go into binge eating a lot during stressful times. So it's not that they're hungry, it's more stress-induced eating. For some people, because they're isolated and they have access to online, then they go into impulsive online shopping. Other folks will go into increased use of alcohol and drugs, a little bit to numb themselves for the stress. So some people will tend to actually drink more or even use illicit drugs during this time. If you're watching that TV or having that marathon of checking CNN or MSNBC or whatever TV channel that you do, or online connection about the news or social media, you may experience that you're like stuck, or that you're scrolling, you're doing this kind of thing in your phone. And you don't even sometimes like figure out what I just read. And at that point, that's a sign that you're at a level of stress that maybe you need to take a break from the exposure to social media and TV, and not be exposed to it. It's okay for you to give yourself that time and space. In youth may actually find, or you also find in adults too, that like video game, that some people will go into excessive marathons of video gaming during this time. Now, for some young people, video gaming also enables them to keep in contact with their friends. And I will talk about that later. You also have some people that go into online gambling and have excessive online gambling. So these are signs that the stress is actually impacting you in a negative way. Adults also have other types of reactions, and actually children too. We will have changes in our behavior. A common change in our behavior by impact of stress because of danger or an emergency is that we have problems sleeping, changes in appetite, changes in levels of energy, people being more irritable, people having changes in thinking, problems concentrating, a lot of thoughts about the worry and not being able to get out of your head that somebody's going to get sick. And that is so pervasive, that is constant in your head, that is pretty difficult to manage. It becomes a stressful change that is happening in you. Other folks will experience emotional changes. Some people are going to be on the side of being maybe more tearful, while others are actually be on the side of being anxious. And this just is not that one is better than the other. It's just some people react differently to that change. And then there's also physical changes. And there's some that are unique to children that I will go in a moment. In adults, physical changes are more in the patterns of sleep. They're more in having headaches. Those are like a lot of common signs of physical changes that people have. Also, muscle pains, body aches, and sometimes it's that calls actually for the need for you to take a walk or exercise to cope with that, because your body's actually not moving at the same rate that you usually do when you're doing your normal business outside from this emergency. So children, we have similar reactions to adults. So there have behavior changes, emotional changes, body changes. In their sleep patterns, what you'll notice in a lot of children, regardless of the age, is that some of them will have bad dreams or problems sleeping or having nightmares. It's going to take longer on the younger kids to actually make them fall asleep at the beginning. Changes in appetite. You may see more binge eating, excessive eating on the older kids. On the younger kids, sometimes the change that you see is actually less eating, less appetite, but that can vary. That sometimes you get an adolescent that eats less. The other thing that you will notice is that children are not going to be telling you, I'm stressed out, I'm anxious, I'm worried. That's not the way that children express and communicate. What you'll notice, the way that they've been impacted under stress, is that you'll find that they're going to have more temper tantrums. They may be more irritable. There's going to be a lot of whining of your teenage kid, whining of your child that is in second grade, whining of your 4-year-old, or maybe more clinging behavior, wanting to be with you all the time and following you. That is normal sign that your child is actually under stress during the emergency. And so those are behaviors that tells you the emotional status of your child. And in children, stomach aches are actually pretty common when they're under stress, and a lot of headaches. So those two symptoms are pretty common across the board for children. Now on the young children, toddlers, preschoolers, a lot of them were going to fear being alone. Some of them will have actually regression to prior milestones. So if your child was starting to speak and suddenly they stop speaking, that could be a temporary change because of the emergency and the stress that your child is going through because of the impact of the changing happening around their lives. They may not understand what coronavirus is in depth at all, but they notice, wait, we're staying at home all the time. I don't go to my daycare. I don't go to my school. My parents are with me all the time. And maybe it was a parent that work out, outside and not a stay-home parent. Some children will start actually bedwetting. Younger children tend to have more changes in that they will start losing bladder control, bowel control. So there's going to be more accidents. Kids that were toilet training now, they start having accidents. This is common. Your child is not misbehaving. This is a normal stress reaction in your children. Some of them will go to constipation and will not try to go at all to use the restroom. Now, on the school-age children, when we're thinking about kids in elementary school, this is the school-age children, 6th grade to 5th grade, 6th grade, stretching it to 12 years old. I mentioned they're going to be irritable and whining, but you also may see a lot of more aggressive play. Some of them may actually withdraw from family members, or they may lose interest when they're being impacted by stress. They may start losing interest in the activities, so everything starts becoming boring. And now there's nothing else to do. And that can actually be a sign in your child that they're under stress about the changes. And I know it may not seem logical, but that's the way that children react under stress in situations like this. All of them, some of them, not all of them, some of them will actually be seeking a lot of attention from you in many different ways, not necessarily acting out, but wanting to be more time with you, spending asking you to do things with them or see what they're doing or check on their homework or check on what the teacher said or other things that they're going to be calling to your attention. And the other thing that you'll find is that you are going to try to give chores to your children, or they're going to be doing homework now from school through the internet, and they're going to be forgetful. And so forgetting and having problems remembering and concentrating are also signs of stress during emergencies and changes in the life of somebody. So they're going to have difficulties adjusting if you're trying to create a new structure. It's going to take time, so be patient and have a little bit of tolerance just keep encouraging them that they're safe with you. When it comes to teens and youth, what we normally see, what is more common, and again, as I said, not everybody responds the same way. So what I'm telling you is not your child has to have all this checklist. These are just common reactions to crises, emergency situations, is that in adolescence, in youth, we will see more of the binge eating. We'll also see more sleep disturbances, more on the extreme that some will go to sleep like 10, 12 hours, while others will go down to not sleep at all, 2-3 hours. So those are signs of your teen child that they may be actually experiencing stress, and you may have to address those habits. Changes in levels of energy. Some youth will go to the feeling tired all the time, while you have the other group of youth that will be like all this energy and very focused and a lot of energy trying to do things. these are actually reactions. Actually, adults also have that reaction too, especially in the immediacy of an emergency or a disaster or a pandemic like we're going right now. Now, teenagers are teenagers. And so adolescents in general, a lot of them, not all of them, may have apathy to adults telling them what to do. So please expect that some of them will have apathy, that there's all these people telling me what to do, what not to do, where to go, when not to work. So they may have actually more apathy and may ignore a little bit more the recommendations of protection, how to protect from the COVID-19, from the coronavirus. So it's important for you to actually have conversations about that, which I'll go in a moment. In addition to headaches, you also find in adolescents that they may experience more skin rashes. When they're stressful, their skin will irritate and will have changes in their skin. These could be stress reaction, but if it's something that happens to your child that you don't see normally, please consult the doctor, because it can be a sign of something else too. Some of them will avoid schoolwork. And I put cutting school here because not all the school districts in all our service region are in the same place. Now, Travis County, Williamson County, Hayes County, Bastrop, I think all those school districts are more on the lockdown, have suspended all classes. There's still some small school districts that are in transition. And so you also need to watch, if that is the case for your child, make sure that they're more at risk of cutting school if they tend to have those tendencies. And that they're going to have problems concentrating. So how do you support your child? You know, what do you do? So, you know, I'm telling you all the, you know, I guess bad things or not kind of like negative things that can happen, but there's things that you can do to help your child. And the first rule is the oxygen mask rule. I don't know how many of you have ever been on an airplane, and if you haven't, I'm going to briefly introduce you to this to you, which is when you're in an airplane, if there's like this, the flight attendant will always have at the beginning, before you actually leave the gate, instructions about safety in the airplane. And so they say if the cabin actually loses oxygen, a mask will drop down from the ceiling, and you have to actually, the adult has to put their mask first, and then they put the mask of the child. And the reason for that is that you need the adult to provide and support help for the child. If you try to put the support first to the child and you're not taking care of yourself, you can actually, something can happen to you, then there's not going to be anybody protecting and supporting your child. So the rule of thumb is that you need to actually take care of yourself first. Now, I don't want you to be negligent about your children. It's just to prioritize your needs. So if you're trying to calm your child, you won't be able to calm your child if you're not calmed down yourself. So it is important for you to figure out how I'm going to calm down. What are things that I can do? So my child is maybe yelling or screaming or irritable. What do I do? So screaming and yelling is not going to get them to that point of calm. You have to be calm so that they calm. If they're yelling and screaming, you don't yell and scream. You keep calm, your tone of voice, so that they can actually bring down to your calmness. So you don't go yourself to their level of emotion. You bring them to your calmness. And so you have to be calm yourself first in order to do that. It is important to organize yourself, to create a routine for yourself, and take care of your basic health needs. Ensure that you create a safe home environment, that you practice self-care, and practice gratefulness. Practice that there's a lot of things that we can give thanks to about right now, that you're okay, that you're safe at home, that you have people supporting you, such as, you know, people maybe in your family, but there's people in ABB Can. We're trying to support you. That's why we're having this today. And I'm sure that your caseworker or your program liaison is actually to support you too. So first rule of thumb, the oxygen mask rule, take care of yourself first, but then focus on your child. So in doing that, ways of taking care of yourself, and we will have other presentations in which we will go in depth on this. So I'm gonna just skim through this very general, is that there's these four basic things that you need to do. First is eat, sleep, and rest. These three things, eat, sleep, and rest, will give you the foundations for your body to recharge and rejuvenate and to have the energy and be resilient to manage the stress. So make sure that you prioritize eating, sleeping, and resting, and taking breaks during the day. And so I mentioned early, yeah, you're going to be overwhelmed with information, but you need to keep and maintain a balance between being informed and not being overly anxious. So make the intention of disconnecting from social media, make the intention of turning off that TV for a few minutes or a few hours of your day so that you're not exposed to the hyper stress that you will hear from the authorities, because they have to provide the information. That's their responsibility, but you can control that. Maybe right now, I heard the news this morning, I can wait till tomorrow morning, or I can wait till the end of the day. I don't have to be connected all the time. And maintain social connection. There's things that you could do in the middle of this isolation. You can call friends, you can write to them, old school mail, or you can use email, or you can text. And so make sure that you reach out to your friends and family members. Reach out to the people that maybe you think that they're by themselves, so that they connect with you too, and you provide that type of support. Connect with nature, practice, there's recommendations that you can walk outside in small groups, keeping social distance if it's safe in your neighborhood. So try to do that. Or maybe you have plants, focus on plants and gardening. Think about reframing your thoughts. And what I mean by that is, like, right now, even though right now I'm here like in my office at home, and I'm grateful to God that I have actually an office in my home, because not everybody has that. But I'm not trapped. And sometimes we feel like, oh my God, we're stuck here. We can go anywhere. We're trapped, we're stuck. So a way of decreasing your stress, if you reframe, if you think and put yourself other thoughts about it. So I'm gonna do like a quick exercise that I want you to do with me right now, and which is, I want you to say it aloud, I am safe. So I want you to think and tell yourself aloud, I am safe. So I'm not stuck at home, I am safe. So I want you to repeat with me, and you can use your hand and put it like maybe on your chest, and then just slow down and think, I'm not stuck at home, I am safe. So that simple exercise, you could do it. You can help your child do that. It's a different framework. Yes, you're safe. I'm protecting my family. I'm protecting myself. I'm protecting other people that are at risk. I am doing something. I am safe. And remember to breathe. Breathe helps. It's a foundation of sometimes just taking a deep breath, even sigh, just doing that deep breath just one time will give you a break from the stress to your body. And just follow the recommendations of public health. If you're doing that, you're doing something. Now for your child, it's important. I know I put like all these pictures about the moms with kids while they're trying to work at home, is to create a structure for your child and your family. That structure will include where your children, if they go to school, find a place in your house. It doesn't have to be a desk. If you have a desk for every child, fantastic. If you don't, be creative. A corner, a chair, somewhere in the house or room that everybody has their own unique space to work and study. And then create a schedule. Times where everybody wakes up, time where we study, start where we take breaks. Make sure that you put breaks for your children, time to play, time to walk outside, even if it's just the backyard. And then eating and dining and doing chores. And then create time for family connection and family time. Cook together, play together, prioritize creating family time for you and your children. And so, as I said, it's important to calm yourself if you're trying to support your children and help them cope, because you're trying to create this safe environment for them at home. And it's important to actually have patience and tolerance. Be tolerant with yourself and be tolerant with your children. You're stressed out, they're also stressed out too. We're all trying to figure this out together, so things don't have to be perfect. And so just have a little bit of patience, because it may be that your children may have more accidents than normally during the stress time that we're in. And then provide reassurance to your children, verbally and physically, that they're safe. Tell them that they're safe. We're safe. We're here at home. So that is the verbal reassurance that they're safe, that they're okay. Also the physical reassurance. This physical reassurance is give them a hug, a physical and then tell them that they're safe. A physical reassurance is tuck them in the bed if they like that at the time of going to bed, no matter the age. Maybe your teenager will like that right now. And physical reassurance can also actually be practicing with them. Well, let's do the hand washing. That's a physical thing. Let's practice how do we put mask if we go outside. That's a physical thing that you can do to reassure their safety. It maintains those family routines. And it is important with, doesn't matter which child, that you encourage them expressing how they're feeling. And children are going to be doing that. The young children by play, and the older children maybe by talking, or a combination of play too. So when you're supporting your young children, a lot of young children, because they don't have the words to express what's going on, what you will see is that they're going to try to reenact or act what's going on. So you may see that your young child starts like dressing up as a doctor because they saw a doctor in the news, as an example, or maybe saw it in your social media and your phone that you were watching something. And now they're going to be talking about, I'm the doctor that is taking care of a patient. So they start reenacting and acting that. Let them play that way. It's not scary. They're not being traumatized. It's the way of children actually processing the emergency. And this is very normal and common. So it is okay to do that. Also make time to play with your child. Join them in their game, whatever it is that they're playing. Let them lead. That connection, that time that you do, helps children feel secure, that they can count on you. It may be just a few minutes that you're giving them. It may be 5-10 minutes. If you have 30 minutes or an hour, that's great. If you don't have it, making the 10 minutes to spend time with your child and play with them and joining them in their game will help young children. And I'm talking young children as toddlers, from a kid that is in 4th grade, 4 years old or 5 years old. And allow that your child because they may have problems sleeping. It may be that your child may want to like fall asleep in your bed, and you have moved them out of your bed and it took you a long time to do that. You're like, oh my God, what am I going to do right now with that? I'll say that is normal. It is okay to be a little bit flexible, and then just talk to them that, yeah, I'm going to let you sleep with me, but once you fall asleep, you're going to go back to your bed, so that you still make connection to that routine that they normally have. But it is okay to be flexible. Because the most important things is that you ensure that your child feels safe. And it is a scary time seeing all these changes for young children, even if they don't know and can't describe what is happening. And so it is important to plan that bedtime, that it's calming, and that you plan for it to provide support. And in young children's, preferably, please avoid media exposure. They're too young. They don't have the understanding of what is that you're seeing. And so try to prioritize not exposing young children to all the news and all the social media and all the hyperness of what's going on, because it's still not necessarily age appropriate. And then you're going to find them experiencing more behavior changes as a result of that, because you may get nervous and then they get nervous as a result of you being nervous. If you're with your children that go to school, that are in elementary school, a way of supporting them is stay in touch with your friends. And so try to see if you have a phone number of one of the parents of one of their friends, and allow them to make a phone call. Maybe use their phones to connect through the internet, or text a parent and their friend. So allow for that to happen. Of course, monitor that. Don't let them just do that like on their own and without supervision. But it is important to encourage them to, in one way or another, try to stay in touch with their friends. And to do regular exercise. So yes, a lot of the schools have actually all the school districts in our regions have gone back to do homeschooling through the internet, guided by their teachers in the school. So it is important for you to create that recess time and allow them to exercise and walk and stretch, and have some energy that they burn, because if not, all that energy is going to stick, and then they're going to be more hyper because they have no way of channeling that. So make sure that you actually incorporate that in your routine. Give them breaks. They're not going to be as productive. As adults, we are not as productive during this time. We cannot accomplish the same level of amount of work than during normal times when we're not stressed. And so the same is true for your children. So allow for breaks for them. And so create gentle but firm limits about things that they can do and can't do. And encourage them to talk about the things that they hear about the pandemic. School-age children will maybe see it with you during the news. So make sure that you have a conversation about what is it that you just seen and heard, so that make sure that they're understanding in their way according to their age. They don't have to be an expert, and you don't have to be an expert in science, but talk about the risk and talk about the safety and talk about the things that the family is doing. Mr. Rogers has a story that I like, that he said that he grew up with his mom would say when there were times of danger or emergencies, his mom taught him, please look at where are the helpers, look for the helpers. And I love that message because it really makes us focus on what are we doing to keep ourselves safe? What are we doing to help others? So try to help your child when they get nervous, focus on that. If you're actually watching news, focus on that and not necessarily on the danger, even though you're taking precautions for that. And as I said, create those family time and encourage your children, whether they're school age or teenagers, what are things that we can do as a family, incorporate their ideas, make it that it's family time that you create, that they have a voice, and that will help the day go more smoothly when you do that. Also, we have the risk because of the pandemic and the origin of the virus being connected to China. There's been some misinformation that has to do with stigma and discrimination to some communities and minorities. So make sure that if you hear your child talking about those things, that you address the stigma and that you provide appropriate information for your teen or for your school-age children. And in addition to that, in moving to teenagers, youth are going to be more susceptible, and they're always more susceptible to emergencies. They're more aware, they have the understanding, because they're growing, they're more, have other capacity and intellectual capacities to understand really more in depth about the risk and what is happening, and the curiosity and the ability to find information on their own. So it is important that you try to actually have a constant, a conversation open with them about the outbreak, about the pandemic, what they have heard. Now, do not force it. Do not force them like, please, you have to talk to me today about it. But just keep the line of communication open, that it is okay that you can talk about it and that you ask. In addition to that, put them in roles that they can help with their siblings, encourage youth and teenagers to, what are ways that they can help others at home, help others in the family, maybe help others in the community. Some people are sewing masks, so people are writing letters of encouragement for doctors and nurses. So there's multiple things that maybe you can do to support each other. And even though they're gonna be, because this generation is a connection very much raised with technology and access to the internet, and they're very knowledgeable and skillful on technology and the use of internet, try to still limit the media exposure. And so in the structure, still create structure that they have time for that, but it's not all the time. And also discuss with them, I mentioned the stigma and for some populations, but you know, with teenagers, they're gonna be more mindful of injustice. So it is okay to have a conversation if you see something like that, if it comes about that you have that conversation about what that means to them and how's that impacting them and what do they think. Now, some of you have children with special healthcare needs, because NABB can serve a lot of children with special healthcare needs. And I have the honor of being the supervisor of the Care and Candlelighters programs that serves children with special healthcare needs. Is that there may be some unique things that you can do to still support your child or your teenager or your adolescent child that has some type of intellectual or developmental disability or developmental delay or mental health or physical or medical condition. First is like reassure your child that it's safe. And I know I said it before, but you still have to do it. Even if your child has a cognitive limitation or your child is on the spectrum of autism, you can still reassure their safety. And how do you do that? You do that in concrete ways. You can talk about the concept of germs, which I'm sure you have talked about your child about being clean and safe because of germs, according to their age. So you can sort of revisit that topic and focus on teaching them the concrete ways of being safe, like washing hands, staying at home, how to wear a mask, in order to make the connection of why are we doing having these changes. It is important for you to contact their special educator teacher. If you haven't, in some schools, it's been a little bit more challenging to start school and homeschooling for children with special education. So reach out to the teacher of your child to make sure that you get some guidance, if it's not on the internet, over the phone, or what are things that you can do to continue their education. There's also some art meetings that are restarting in some school districts, so make sure that you do connect. There's actually some activities that are starting to happening over the internet and video that are happening on the school to support your children at this time. Reach out to your doctor and find information. How can you contact them if your child were to get sick? And explore if they're still providing services through telemedicine, which is video conferencing for doctors and physicians and nurses. And ensure that your child has the medications, that you don't run out of prescriptions because of limits of types of business being closed or not open all the time. Make sure that you're mindful of tracking that. And for children who, in particular, if you have a child that has fragile medical needs, it is important, if you didn't know, to actually register your child in the local emergency management office. In Texas has a program for people with medical conditions and disabilities, that if they call the local emergency management office in their county, they will register them. And if there's a point that you need an ambulance, your ambulance during an emergency or a disaster could be prioritized for your child if that were to happen. But the only way that you can do that if you have registered yourself. So maybe this is the time that you can look into this on the internet. And I'm about to wrap up our presentation and move into questions and answer. And I'm not going to go into in depth in how do you explain to your child that they have COVID. What is COVID-19? How do you explain to them that? I'm not going to do a demonstration right now. I do encourage you to visit the CDC website, www.cdc.gov, that you can see on the screen. They have in-depth guidance step by step. The information is in multiple languages. The first step that they sort of say is, first of all, as I said, remain calm and reassure your child that they're safe. And make sure that you're open, as I said, to talk about and have a constant conversation. Pay attention to what they're watching, and provide information that is honest and accurate based on facts that you have heard. And you don't have to be an expert, and really focus on the idea of reducing the spread of germs, the idea of protecting themselves or not getting sick. And so focus on those facts. And they have different languages of how to explain the virus for different age groups. I recommend you to visit the cdc.gov website. So if you get sick, the CDC recommends to stay home. Actually, if you get sick, and before you actually reach out and go to the ER or your doctor's office, don't show up, call first. That is the guidance, that if somebody in your house gets sick, call the doctor first, call the hospital first, call the ER first, so that they can give you guidelines of what to do before you go. Because now the way of accessing medical care is very different. So call first if that is the situation. And then also visit the CDC website, has a lot of instructions. If somebody gets sick in your house with the coronavirus, they're going to explain you what are the measures that you can take to create safety for yourself, to create safety for caring for the person who's sick at home, and how do you create social isolation in your home if somebody gets sick with the coronavirus. And although this is not a priority, please tell your Any Baby Can caseworker or therapist or your parent educator that somebody's sick at home, so that we know that we may be needing to support you in a different way during this time if somebody gets the coronavirus. So I have included, and as I said, we will post this presentation on Any Baby Can website or other resources. But in addition to finding COVID-19 coronavirus information on the CDC website, Austin Public Health, which is the information, the primary resource for us in Any Baby Can, there's the website for Austin Public Health Department. You can Google it or go to any search engine on the internet and find Austin Public Health coronavirus, and then you'll find information in English and Spanish. Department of State Health Services of Texas also have a website. And if you see that image that I have there, they actually even have a live map that tracks how many people per county and how many cases do we have in the state. So I took that picture of that website from our State Department of Health. Last thing before I go into questions and answers is that your mental health it's at risk when you're under stress for an emergency, and actually everybody's is. Now, there's populations that are more at risk right now during this emergency. Yes, there's the people who have medical conditions that are more at risk, but people who have history of mental health disorders, mental illnesses, serious emotional disturbances in children are more at risk during stresses of disasters, emergencies, and pandemics. So their symptoms can actually worsen during this time if they don't have not figured out a way to cope or manage their medical condition. And so we're providing here, there's actually there's multiple helplines, but I'm focusing on these three because they're focusing right now on providing support during the emergency. The Health and Human Services Commission of Texas created this Texas COVID-19 mental health support line. Although it's not a 1-800 number, it's still a toll-free number. So if you call 1-833-986-1919, 24 hours, 7 days a week, with people that speak different languages, will be able to help you or anybody because you need support. You need somebody to talk to during this time. Nationally, there's a disaster distress helpline that SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Administration, has. Also 24 hours, 7 days a week, you can call that number. For people who experience suicide, and there's some populations that may be at risk for suicide, it is important for people to actually reach out if they start having thoughts about wanting to die. And help is available. There's a lot of people who may not be providing services face-to-face. We know that all our crisis lines and all mental health crisis lines in all our counties are working, still providing services face-to-face. So if you call the National Suicide Prevention Helpline, they will actually connect you with the local county mental health crisis services in your county here in Texas. Also for those that maybe you hear or you experience that the National Domestic Violence Helpline is still working. Providing services every day and every hour of the day. For basic needs, we're encouraging you that Texas has a statewide, that probably you have heard from some of your case manager, the 211 number, where you can find information about where I can find food in my county, where I can have health resources, where do I seek treatment, I have problems with rent, you can call 211 and they're gonna give you who can help you right now during this emergency in your county. Travis County has a unique line that is 311 for services related to the county or city of Austin that you can also call if you live in this county, in Travis County. And the Texas Workforce Commission, they don't have a phone line, but they have a website where you can find information about unemployment, about finding jobs. They're also having resources about childcare. So if you have to work and you're struggling with finding childcare, visit the Texas Workforce Commission website. So I'm gonna open to questions, and I'm gonna have Renee Villanueva, which is one of our NES therapists, and she also works with the care team as a medical case manager, to read to me the questions that maybe people put on the chat. And after that, then we will open it for questions that maybe people have that are joining us right now.
Hello, everyone. It looks like we don't have any questions in the chat at all, so you can feel free to open.
Okay, so anybody has a question or something that you want me to follow up? Somebody's raising their hand. Let me try to see if I can figure this out. And I'll be honest with you, we're figuring out this technology for the first time, because this is not a meeting technology, it's a webinar technology. And whoever raised your hand, if you can speak, I'll be glad to answer, because I cannot see you, but I could hear you. I think if, Yadira, if you can unmute everybody, that would help, so that I could, if somebody has a question.
Can you hear me? This is Linda.
Yes.
Oh, hi.
How are you?
Hi. So I didn't really have a question, but I did have a couple of comments. This is an awesome webinar, and it's really good. The pieces that I was thinking that, from my point of view, would be good to add in is the value of certain positive things, especially like physical things we can do. So I made a little list, and that's like doing things where you're laughing and dancing and massage, deep hugs, jumping, different exercises or yoga, drinking lots of water, and then having all of the participants in the house have jobs to do, some responsibilities. So I just wanted to kind of throw that out because it's so easy to think about all the things that are kind of hard to do. And you had great general recommendations. So I just want to throw some specifics in there.
I love it. Thank you for sharing. And if other people want to share some ideas, you know, we created this one as an introduction. Our plan is to have some other presentations that are going to be probably shorter, but focus on what are things that actually you can do and go into. How about having fun and discussing those different things and having a little bit more interactive of things that had to do with humor, things that had to do with thoughts, creative activities that you can do with your family or your children. So we have all these other ideas about maybe upcoming presentations that we can go more in depth. But thank you for sharing. I actually love the list that you share. And if you have ideas of things that you think we should do for presentations, because we wanted to go more in depth, we were trying to figure out how can we do this within an hour. And if you see already, like I finished my presentation in an hour, and now we're all past the hour for questions and answers. So we're planning to actually have more that will go more into specific tips and areas of practical things that people can do. But thank you, Linda. Thank you. Anybody else that maybe wants to share or have a comment before we wrap up? Renee, do you see any comment or anything, or raising hand or something?
It looks like someone put advice on domestic violence in COVID-19, how we can better help clients should we come across this. Also, thank you so much for the webinar.
Thank you. Thank you for that question. So, you know, it's a real risk for the couples who have problems of violence, or that they have risk and signs of intimate partner violence this time. Especially the isolation is very detrimental because, you know, the dynamics that happen. And one thing that I will say, because I've had that question asked me by my staff in the counseling program, and in our medical case managers has asked for this question is, don't be afraid of asking, even though you know that the perpetrator may be there. And it is okay to provide the information and say, you know, I can send you a line if something has happened, or maybe you want to find information that you can do that, because prioritizing the safety of your client, it is okay. You're not going to be the one provoking the violence if it happens at home. The perpetrator is the one that creates that. So don't be afraid of, if you think or you need to check, it is okay to check, are you safe at home during this time? I know that now you're more isolated, and now it's a client that maybe you have, or maybe you have a family member that, you know, that they struggle with this, that you check on them. Are you safe? Do you need something? I can send you the helpline for intimate partner violence and send it to them. You know, worst case scenario, of course, if something happened, you can always like encourage them, or you know, call the police if they agreed to that. But if there was violence happening, or there's a child that is at risk because of that. But not going there, I think having the conversation and not being afraid of asking if they feel safe, if they need any support, doing the check and the follow-up with them more frequent. It is important. Sometimes people are not going to be in the mood of talking with you for an hour, but the checking with them 5 minutes, a phone call that is brief, a quick text, it encourages people to actually maybe open up and say something to you, and you create a level of safety for them. And if they need it, then you provide their phone line. You do encourage them to seek out the National Domestic Violence, or they can call 911, and the police has the obligation to actually still continue providing support in protecting whoever is the person that it's in this situation. That's a good question. And I think we could maybe go more in depth in a separate presentation. Maybe we could discuss more about violence and those risks in a different presentation, because that will take us into a whole different line and different type of recommendations. Any final thoughts or questions? If not, this has been great. Do not disconnect. I'm gonna like quickly move us to something next from here. I was told to put at the end a bio profile of myself because of my expertise in trauma and emergency management. Like there is there. You are supposed to receive a poll at the end of this presentation, which I will connect once I get to the last slide, which I'll call in a moment. And I hope that you can answer those questions for us. We're asking just 3 simple questions to try to get some input for you, because it's the first time that we're doing this and we want some input and feedback. So to wrap up and end, you know, we're all in this together. You're not alone. You know, we're here for you. Your caseworker is there for you. Your therapist is there for you. Your parent educator, your case manager. We're here for you. And so we're all in this together. We're all going through this. And Any Baby Can is committed to continue serving you, serving your family, serving your children, and our community. And we hope that you enjoyed this presentation. If you have questions more about this or future, you can email info@anybabycan.org to find more information about the services of Any Baby Can during this time. What are we doing? Upcoming presentations, or any questions about how to access services. I'm going to post the poll now, and we appreciate your time. Thank you so much. We hope that you have a good day, and we'll see you soon. Please watch for the announcement of upcoming presentations and upcoming support groups available for you. And thank you. And I just posted the poll, so if you can complete the poll, I will appreciate it. Thank you, everybody. I'm gonna turn off my camera and leave it for you to take time to complete the poll. We'll figure out how to do a survey in the future, but we're still trying to learn this new technology. Thank you so much. I am dropping, I'm still leaving the poll. A few more minutes. I'm gonna stop the recording though.